Most of our audience are not experienced professional. They are fresh from college, right? And sometimes they're so familiar with the word product management, and they see lots of people with product manager job, and they feel like I can get into that field too, but they don't know where to start.
The biggest thing that hiring managers want to look for is experience, right? And college students kind of throw their hands up in the air like, right, I'm fresh out of college. How do I get and show experience? These job applications, I need 5 years of experience, but I'm 20, 21, 22. I just graduated, but what do I do? And so
coming out of school, like, you don't know. And I was personally myself going through that, right? Because even though I was coming with a undergrad, right? But I was more into clinical side, right? So when I was in MBA, I was in that struggle, right? How do I find my career? Like, how do I find right, the job which really works best with my personality, with my skill set, right? So I started doing, like, I attended a lot of webinars, I I listened to a lot of podcasts, and then I started taking a lot of internship. Like I started volunteering at Texas Medical Center, and then once I started volunteering, I kept on showing. They hired me for some of the projects then, right? Like, I was definitely struggling, and that was me, before meeting you, Kwan, right? So I was in my path of journey trying to self-discover myself, right? So all of that was really, really helpful. And then finally, when later on I met you, it was more like, how do I take all of this now and start focusing on finding a job and able to communicate all those experiences together? I think sponsor is like number one thing that always come up, right? Like, how do we find an organization who's willing to sponsor, right? So I can definitely see people like, hey, and as an international student, the biggest concerns are, I'm on OPT. How do I find a company, right, where I can get into this role, but I can work with them as an intern, right? And then like sponsor, how do I continue taking on like internships? Tactical way of communication where I'm able to get what I want, right? But still be polite and not offend someone, right? That tactical piece of communication, that's not something I learned from my parents.
In certain cultures, asking for help is perceived as a sign of weakness or incompetence. But there's been a lot of studies about how endearing it is to ask people for questions, because you enhance their own importance, right? And enhance their own sense of self-worth. So maybe that's something to call out too, of like, I think combining what we talked about earlier of those like emotional intelligence pieces of curiosity and asking questions. Like if you're curious about how a certain geographic subculture within the US or a specific company culture operates, like asking those questions early before you get into those tough conversations. So you have a baseline of kind of what the company cultural expectations are. And then really listening and being able to like say, okay, this may not be my personal style, but how can I adapt to this style to better work within this type of company culture?